I thought I was having a stress dream after 3 sleepless nights in the hospital with my newborn daughter. I had no idea my deceased mother was actually warning me about what my mother-in-law had hidden in her purse, or that when I finally looked inside that bag while she slept in the chair next to my hospital bed, I would discover adoption papers with my baby's name already filled in, a forged signature that looked disturbingly like mine, and a cashier's check for $50,000 made out to a private adoption agency. The woman I'd trusted to help me through the hardest week of my life had been planning to steal my child, and she'd almost succeeded. The dream came on my 4th night in the hospital. I'd given birth to Elena 5 days earlier, a difficult delivery that had resulted in complications requiring an extended stay. Preeclampsia that wouldn't resolve, blood pressure that spiked dangerously every few hours, medications that left me foggy and exhausted. My husband Daniel was splitting his time between the hospital and his job, trying to keep us financially afloat during my unpaid leave. His mother, Patricia, had volunteered to stay with me during the nights, to help with the baby while I recovered, to be the support system I desperately needed. I'd been grateful. My own mother had died 2 years earlier from cancer, a loss I still hadn't fully processed. Having Patricia there felt like a gift, a substitute maternal presence during one of the most vulnerable times of my life. She was attentive, helpful, always ready to take Elena when I was too weak to hold her, always offering to handle the paperwork, the insurance forms, the endless bureaucracy that comes with hospital stays. I should have questioned why she was so eager to help with documents. Should have wondered why she kept her large designer purse so close, clutched in her lap or tucked beside her chair, never letting it out of her sight. The dream was vivid in a way dreams rarely are. My mother appeared exactly as she'd looked before the cancer ravaged her body, healthy, whole, wearing the blue cardigan she'd loved. She was standing at the foot of my hospital bed, her expression urgent. "Mia," she said, and her voice was as clear as if she were really there. "You need to look in Patricia's bag. Don't take anything out. Just look inside when she's not watching. You need to see what she's planning." "Mom?" I said in the dream, reaching for her. "You're not real. You're gone." "I'm here enough to warn you," she said. "Please, baby, look in the bag, before she leaves with Elena, before it's too late." I woke up gasping, my heart racing, the hospital room dark except for the monitors casting their green glow. Elena was asleep in the bassinet beside my bed. Patricia was dozing in the reclining chair by the window, her purse on the floor next to her feet, partially hidden by her jacket. It was just a dream, I told myself. Stress and medication and grief manifesting as my dead mother, warning me about something ridiculous. Patricia had been nothing but helpful, loving, supportive. The idea that she was planning something sinister was absurd, but I couldn't shake the feeling, couldn't stop staring at that purse in the shadows. I need to go back 3 months to explain how I'd ended up here, in this hospital room, vulnerable enough to be a target. Daniel and I had been married for 2 years when I got pregnant. It was planned, wanted, celebrated. We were living in a small apartment in Chicago, both working demanding jobs, barely making ends meet but happy, optimistic about the future. Daniel's relationship with his mother had always been complicated. Patricia was wealthy, widowed young, had raised Daniel alone after his father died when Daniel was 10. She was possessive in a way I'd initially found touching, a devoted mother who'd sacrificed everything for her son. But over time, I'd started to see the manipulation underneath. The way she'd guilt Daniel into spending time with her, the way she'd insert herself into our decisions, the way she'd make subtle comments about our apartment being too small, our jobs not prestigious enough, our choices not measuring up to her standards. When I got pregnant, Patricia's involvement intensified. She wanted to be at every doctor's appointment, wanted to help decorate the nursery, wanted to have opinions on names, on parenting styles, on everything. Daniel thought it was sweet. He'd grown up with just her, and he wanted his mother to be involved in his child's life. I tried to set boundaries, but they were constantly eroded. A suggestion became an insistence. A helpful offer became an assumption of control. The tension came to a head at 7 months pregnant when Patricia announced she'd be staying with us for the first month after the baby was born. Not asking, announcing. Daniel agreed before consulting me, and when I objected, he'd made it about my dead mother. "You don't have your mom to help you," he said. "My mom wants to be there for you, for us. Let her do this." So I'd agreed because I was tired and overwhelmed, and maybe he was right. Maybe I did need the help. Maybe I was being ungrateful and hormonal and difficult. The birth had been traumatic. 36 hours of labor followed by an emergency situation that had required rapid intervention. Elena had been born healthy, perfect, but I'd developed complications. The preeclampsia that had been mild during pregnancy had spiked dangerously after delivery. My blood pressure wouldn't stabilize. The doctors wanted me hospitalized for observation, for treatment, potentially for a week or more. Daniel had to work. We couldn't afford for him to take unpaid leave, not with the medical bills already mounting. Patricia had volunteered immediately to stay at the hospital with me, to be there overnight, to help with Elena while I recovered. The nurses loved her. She was charming, attentive, always bringing them coffee and treats, always handling Elena with practiced confidence, always insisting I rest, that she'd take care of everything. Looking back, I can see how she'd isolated me, convinced Daniel to go home and sleep, to go to work, to trust her to handle things, convinced the nurses that I was too weak to make decisions, that she was helping by taking over the administrative tasks, convinced me that I was lucky to have her, that without her I'd be alone and struggling. She'd been building towards something, and my mother's ghost, or my subconscious, or whatever that dream had been, was trying to warn me. The morning after the dream, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Patricia had gone to the cafeteria for breakfast, leaving her purse behind for the first time in days. It was sitting on the chair, partially open, almost like an invitation. I shouldn't look, I told myself. It's a violation of privacy. It's paranoid and crazy and disrespectful. But my mother's voice in the dream had been so clear, so urgent. I got out of bed slowly, my body still weak and sore, crossed the few feet to the chair, looked down at the purse, expensive leather, navy blue, the kind that cost more than my monthly rent. My hands were shaking as I reached for it. Inside, on top, were normal things. Wallet, phone, reading glasses, hand sanitizer. I almost stopped there, almost convinced myself the dream had been meaningless. But I pushed aside the top layer and saw the folder. Manila folder, unmarked, thick with papers. I pulled it out with trembling hands, opened it. The first document was an intake form for an adoption agency, Sunshine Adoptions, based in Indiana. The form was filled out in Patricia's handwriting, dated 3 days ago. Prospective adoptive parents. Patricia Whitmore. Child. Female infant, newborn, healthy, expected finalization date, within 1 week of birth. I stared at it, unable to process what I was seeing. There had to be an explanation, some misunderstanding. I flipped to the next page, a consent to adopt form, with my name typed at the bottom, with a signature that looked like mine but wasn't, slightly off in the loops and slants. A forged signature giving consent for my newborn daughter to be adopted by my mother-in-law. The next document was worse. A lawyer's letter explaining that the biological father, Daniel Whitmore, was supportive of the adoption plan given the mother's inability to care for the child due to medical complications and financial instability. Another forged signature, this one Daniel's. They'd forged both our signatures, had created an entire false narrative where we were unable parents willingly giving up our child to the grandmother who could provide a better life. The next page was a medical summary, my medical summary, details of my complicated delivery, my ongoing health issues, all framed to make me sound incompetent, unstable, unable to safely care for an infant. Phrases like diminished capacity and questionable decision-making and significant health risks that could impact parenting ability. A doctor I'd never heard of had signed it. Another forgery, or maybe a Dr. Patricia had paid to write whatever she wanted. And then, clipped to the back of the folder, a cashier's check. $50,000 made out to Sunshine Adoptions, payment in full for expedited private adoption services. I was going to be sick. Actually, physically sick. I dropped the folder back into the purse, stumbled to the bathroom, and vomited. My mother-in-law was trying to steal my baby, had created an elaborate fraud to make it legal, had forged documents, paid an adoption agency, built a case that I was an unfit mother who'd consented to giving up my child. How long had she been planning this? Since I got pregnant? Since before? Had she been waiting for an opportunity, and my complicated delivery had given her the perfect opening? The door opened. I heard Patricia's voice from the main room. "Mia? Are you all right, dear?" I flushed the toilet, washed my face, tried to compose myself, walked out to find her settling back into her chair, her purse now on her lap, her expression concerned and caring. "Just nauseous," I said. "The medications sometimes make me sick." She nodded sympathetically. "You poor thing, why don't you rest? I'll take care of Elena. Let me handle everything." That's what you've been doing, I thought. Handling everything, controlling everything, building your case that I'm too sick, too weak, too incompetent to be a mother. "I need to call Daniel," I said. "Can I use your phone?" "Mine's dead." She hesitated just for a second. "Of course," she said, but her smile was tighter. "Though he's probably in meetings. Maybe wait until this evening." "I need to talk to him now," I said, and I heard the steel in my own voice. Patricia's expression shifted, became more calculating. "Is everything all right?" she asked. "You seem upset." "I'm fine," I lied. "I just need to talk to my husband." She handed me her phone with obvious reluctance. I took it into the bathroom, locked the door, and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring. "Mia, is something wrong?" "Everything's wrong," I said, keeping my voice low. "Your mother is trying to steal our baby." "What?" "Mia, what are you talking about?" "She has adoption papers in her purse," I said. "Forged signatures from both of us, a check to an adoption agency, medical documents claiming I'm unfit. She's planning to take Elena and make it look legal." There was silence on the other end. "Daniel," I said, "did you hear me? Your mother is trying to adopt our daughter." "That's insane," he said finally. "You must have misunderstood something. My mom would never do that. She's trying to help." "I saw the documents," I said. "Your signature and mine, both forged. A lawyer's letter, a check for $50,000. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is fraud." "Mia, you're on a lot of medications," he said, and I heard the doubt in his voice. "You've been through a traumatic delivery. Maybe you saw something innocuous and your mind made it into something else." "Are you seriously suggesting I'm hallucinating?" I asked. "That I imagined detailed adoption papers with our daughter's name on them?" "Let me talk to my mom," Daniel said. "I'm sure there's an explanation." "Don't you dare," I said. "Don't you dare warn her that I know. Get to this hospital right now. Bring a lawyer if you can find one. And don't tell your mother anything." "Mia," he started, but I hung up. I didn't have time for his denial, his unwillingness to see his mother clearly. I needed help. I called the one person I knew would believe me. My best friend Sophia, who'd known me since college, who'd watched my relationship with Patricia deteriorate over 2 years of marriage. "Sophia," I said when she answered, "I need you to come to the hospital right now, and I need you to bring your phone to record. I'm going to confront Patricia, and I need evidence of what happens." "What's going on?" she asked, but I could hear her already moving, grabbing keys. "Your instincts about Patricia were right," I said. "She's trying to take Elena. I'll explain when you get here. Just hurry." I hung up, washed my face again, tried to steady myself, went back into the room where Patricia was holding Elena, rocking her gently, humming a lullaby, the picture of a devoted grandmother. "You were right," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I do need rest. Would you mind watching her for another hour while I try to sleep?" "Of course, dear," Patricia said. "That's what I'm here for. To take care of both of you." I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep while my mind raced. Sophia would be here in 20 minutes. Daniel maybe 30 if traffic was good. The nurses did their rounds every 2 hours. I needed to time this perfectly. Needed witnesses. Needed to catch Patricia in a position where she couldn't talk her way out of what she'd done. 15 minutes later, I heard Patricia's phone ring. She answered it quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. "Yes," she said. "Everything's going according to plan. She's very weak. The doctors are concerned about her ability to care for the baby. I heard her moving, probably stepping into the hallway for privacy. I opened my eyes, saw she'd left her purse on the chair again, left Elena in the bassinet. This was my chance. I got up, grabbed the folder from her purse, took photos of every document with my dead phone that actually still had enough battery for the camera, sent them to cloud storage, to Sophia's email, to every backup location I could think of, put the folder back exactly as I'd found it, got back in bed just as Patricia returned. She looked at me suspiciously. "I thought you were sleeping," she said. "Just resting," I said. "Hard to really sleep in hospitals." She settled back into her chair, but her posture was tense. She knew something was off, could sense the shift in dynamic even if she didn't know exactly what I'd discovered. Sophia arrived 30 minutes later with her husband Marcus, both of them looking concerned and ready for battle. Sophia was a lawyer, corporate, not family, but she knew enough to be dangerous. "What's going on?" Patricia asked as they entered. "Why are you here?" "Mia called us," Sophia said. "Said she needed support. We're her family, too." Patricia's jaw tightened, but she smiled. Of course, the more support the better. Daniel arrived 10 minutes after that, still in his work clothes, looking stressed and confused. He hugged me, whispered, "We'll figure this out," but I could tell he still didn't believe me. Now that everyone was here, I made my move. "Patricia," I said, "can you show Daniel what's in your purse?" Her face went pale. "My purse? Why would I do that?" "Because I already know what's in there," I said. "But I think Daniel needs to see it for himself." She clutched the bag to her chest. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're clearly confused." "Mia, what is this?" Daniel asked. "Show him the adoption papers," I said to Patricia. "Show him the forged signatures. Show him the $50,000 check you were planning to use to steal our daughter." The room went silent. Daniel stared at his mother. "Patricia, is this true?" "Of course not," she said. "Your wife is having some kind of breakdown. The medications, the stress. She's not thinking clearly." "Then you won't mind showing us your purse," Sophia said. "If there's nothing there, you'll prove Mia's wrong and we can all move on." Patricia stood up, still clutching the bag. "I don't have to prove anything. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving." She started for the door, but Marcus blocked it, his large frame filling the doorway. "Nobody's leaving until we sort this out," he said calmly. "Daniel, tell them to move," Patricia demanded. "Tell them they're being absurd and let me leave." "Dad," Daniel said to Marcus, his voice uncertain, "maybe we should just calm down." I pulled out my phone, pulled up the photos I'd taken. "Daniel," I said, "look at these. These are photos of documents from your mother's purse, adoption papers with our signatures forged, medical statements claiming I'm incompetent, a check to an adoption agency." Daniel took my phone, scrolled through the images. His face went from confused to shocked to devastated. "Mom," he said quietly, "what is this?" Patricia's composure cracked. "Those were private," she hissed at me. "You had no right to go through my things. So you're not denying they exist," Sophia said. "You're just angry she found them." "I was trying to help," Patricia said, her voice rising. "You're clearly not capable of caring for this baby. You're sick. You're poor. You have no support system. I can give Elena everything. A good home, financial security, a stable parent who isn't falling apart." "You were going to steal my baby," I said. "You forged legal documents. You paid an adoption agency. You built an entire fraud to take my child." "I wasn't stealing," Patricia said. "I was saving her from a mother who can't take care of her. Look at you. You can barely get out of bed. You have no money, no job, no prospects. What kind of life can you give her? A better life than one built on lies and theft, Sophia said. Patricia, what you did is criminal. Forgery, fraud, attempted kidnapping. You could go to prison. She wouldn't dare press charges, Patricia said, looking at me. She needs my help. She needs my money. Without me, they'd be homeless in 6 months. Watch me, I said. I picked up the hospital phone and called the nurse's station. I need security in my room, I said, and I need to speak to the hospital's legal department. There's been an attempted kidnapping. What are you doing? Patricia asked, her voice panicked now. You can't do this. I'm Daniel's mother. I'm family. You tried to steal my child, I said. You forged documents. You committed fraud. You're not family. You're a criminal. Security arrived within minutes, followed shortly by a hospital administrator. I showed them the photos, explained what I'd found. The administrator's face grew increasingly grim as I talked. Ma'am, he said to Patricia, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us while we sort this out. We take allegations like this very seriously. I haven't done anything wrong, Patricia said, but her voice had lost its conviction. She looked at Daniel. Tell them I was just trying to help. Mom, Daniel said, and his voice was broken. How could you do this? How could you think this was okay? Because you're my son, she said. Everything I do is for you, to protect you from making mistakes. She was a mistake, and this baby would have been a burden on your life. I was giving you a way out. I'm not a mistake, I said, and my daughter is not a burden. She's my child, and you have no right to her. The hospital called the police. Patricia was escorted out of my room, still clutching her purse with its damning contents, still insisting she'd done nothing wrong. The investigation moved quickly. The adoption agency, Sunshine Adoptions, turned out to be partially legitimate, but willing to cut corners for the right price. They'd accepted Patricia's money and documents without properly verifying signatures or checking that the biological parents were actually consenting. When police showed up with evidence of forgery, they cooperated fully, eager to avoid their own legal consequences. They provided emails from Patricia detailing her plan, phone records showing her calls to them starting 3 months ago, right after I'd announced my pregnancy. She'd been planning this from the beginning. The doctor who'd signed the medical documents turned out to be a retired physician Patricia knew socially, who'd signed papers as a favor without actually examining me. He claimed he didn't know they were going to be used for fraud, but his license was suspended pending investigation. Patricia hired an expensive attorney who tried to frame everything as a misunderstanding, as an overzealous grandmother who'd gotten confused about legal processes. But the evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, false statements, payment to facilitate an illegal adoption. The prosecutor charged her with multiple felonies. Daniel was destroyed. His mother, the woman who'd raised him alone, who'd sacrificed everything for him, had turned out to be someone capable of monstrous things. He apologized to me constantly, said he should have seen it, should have believed me, should have protected me from her. I forgave him because I loved him and because he genuinely hadn't known. But something had broken between us that would take years to repair. The trust we'd had, the assumption that we were partners who'd protect each other above all else, had been shattered. The trial was 6 months later. I'd recovered from my health complications by then, was home with Elena, trying to rebuild a normal life. Patricia pled not guilty, maintained that she'd been trying to help, that her intentions had been good even if her methods were flawed. The jury didn't buy it. They saw the forged documents, heard testimony from the adoption agency, listened to me describe finding those papers in her purse while she pretended to be my loving support system. They convicted her on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. In her statement before sentencing, Patricia looked directly at me. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You've destroyed a family. You've taken a grandmother away from her granddaughter, all because you couldn't see that I was trying to give that child a better life than you ever could." The judge cut her off. "Mrs. Whitmore, he said. You didn't try to give that child anything. You tried to steal her. You committed fraud. You forged legal documents, and you violated the trust of your own family. The only person who destroyed this family is you. Patricia went to prison. Daniel and I stayed together, though it took therapy, time, and constant work to rebuild what she'd broken. Elena is 3 years old now. She's happy, healthy, loved beyond measure. She has no memory of the grandmother who tried to take her, no knowledge of how close she came to being stolen from her parents. We don't talk about Patricia much. Daniel sees her occasionally, supervised visits at the prison that leave him depressed for days afterward. She still maintains she did nothing wrong, still insists she was trying to help, still can't see that love doesn't give you the right to destroy someone else's life. I think about that dream sometimes, my mother's voice warning me to look in the bag. Was it really her? Or was it my subconscious recognizing something wrong, manifesting as the person I trusted most to deliver the warning? I'll never know. But I'm grateful for it either way. Grateful I looked when I did. Another few days and Patricia might have succeeded, might have gotten me to sign something while I was medicated and weak, might have convinced Daniel that I truly was unfit, might have walked out of that hospital with my daughter and made the adoption look legitimate enough to be hard to undo, the closest call of my life. And I almost ignored it because I thought it was just a dream. Sophia still brings it up sometimes when we have coffee. Do you think it was really your mom? She asks, or just your intuition? Does it matter? I say. Either way, she saved Elena. Either way, I listened. That's what counts. I'm raising my daughter to trust her instincts, to listen to that inner voice that says something's wrong even when everyone around her is saying everything's fine, to know that being polite, being accommodating, being understanding isn't worth more than being safe and protecting what matters. Patricia gets out of prison in 6 months. Her lawyer has already sent letters asking about reconciliation, about meeting Elena, about being a family again. We've ignored everyone. Daniel is clear on this even though it breaks his heart. His mother made her choice when she tried to steal our child. There's no coming back from that. No amount of time served that erases what she did. Elena will grow up knowing she has a grandmother who's not part of our lives. When she's old enough to understand, we'll tell her the truth. Not the sanitized version, not the grandma made a mistake version, but the real truth. That sometimes people who claim to love you will hurt you. That family doesn't give anyone the right to control your life or take what's yours. That you have to protect yourself even from people you're supposed to trust. Hard lessons for a child, but better she learns them from us, in safety, than learns them the way I did, by almost losing everything. I dreamed my late mother warned me before leaving the hospital, and whether it was really her spirit or just my own mind trying to protect me, it saved my daughter's life. Saved her from being raised by a woman who thought love meant ownership, who thought she had the right to take a child because she could provide more money, who couldn't understand that being a mother isn't about what you can buy. It's about showing up, fighting for your child, protecting them even when you're weak and scared and everyone's telling you you're wrong. I was weak in that hospital bed, vulnerable, easy to manipulate, but I was never too weak to be a mother. Never too sick to recognize danger when it threatened my child, never too broken to fight back. Patricia thought my complicated delivery had given her an opportunity, thought my weakness was her advantage. She was wrong. My mother's warning, real or imagined, gave me exactly what I needed: the knowledge to recognize the threat, the courage to confront it, the strength to win. And now, 3 years later, I'm standing in my kitchen making breakfast for my daughter who's chattering about preschool and her favorite cartoon and whether we can get a puppy. My healthy, happy, safe daughter who almost wasn't mine, who would have been raised by a woman who valued control over love, possessions over people, winning over family. I owe my mother for the warning. Whether she sent it from wherever she is now or whether my subconscious conjured her image to make me listen doesn't matter. What matters is that I heard it. I looked in the bag. I found the truth. I saved my child, and that's enough. That's everything.